Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Episode 26. This is the part 2 of our Ravine and Creek series. And in this episode, we do start doing some detailing on the scenery and we pour the creek. That's right. We're going to pour the creek. And this is exciting stuff. Teach you how I mixed up the epoxy and how I put it in. And we'll get your impact and your comments about how you think it looks. Okay, and I want to thank everybody for all the input and all of the encouragement about this channel. And we're gonna just keep going. It's been a fun time, and I hope everybody's having a good time and learning stuff. And welcome aboard. But you know what it means when we come to this part of the show. It's time for the song. That's right. Railroad Soul. From the mountains across the prairies to the sea. Shared their lives, their hearts, and their pride. They had railway soul. They had railway soul. They had railway soul. Okay, so here is the ravine. Once I have covered it with the plaster of Paris. And look, I was just gonna, when I started, I was just gonna do these rock faces and, you know, rough areas and the riverbed. And then I got going, it looks really good. So I kept going. And then I took the moldings that we made earlier and mounted them in. Now, this is just a layer of granite that they had to go through. I'll come from this end. Okay, I just put one in there in the corner. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was before I did all this, let me just zoom back a bit. I don't know if you can see it now, but I did put some supports. See, there is a support right there. I did put some supports in behind that foam, just glued it in. You can see it again there. I put a couple more over here, just so that it wouldn't wobble around if someone sort of touched it. And then I'd crack all the, another one here, and then crack all the hard work with the plaster of Paris and all that other stuff. So these are just glued on with the standard glue that I used to glue down the track. Nothing special. Now you will see that they're, and the areas where the bridge is going to go in are still open there with the green. So I'll try to get views from all area, and then we'll put the bridge in. Now remember, the outcroppings of rocks are I'm going to put some sculpt mold around them, and we'll fill in some of those cracks. And I kind of like the cracks, actually. They kind of make it look, that plaster of Paris just went in enough to make them look real. Okay, I'm going to put a few drainage pipes and things in, maybe one here. Oops. Maybe one here and one over here somewhere. Have it running down over the rocks, and then I'll just show you the riverbed has come out really well. And now what I'll do is I'll paint this different colors. So darker grays, maybe some browns. And then we'll put in the water effect. Okay, let's put the bridge in and see how it looks. So gonna put this in now. It's hard to do with one hand sometimes. Very hard to do because it's fit in perfectly. There we go. All right, so that's how that's going to look when it's in. So we're coming along, slowly but surely. Okay, sorry about the hand hawks there. So now we'll go to the next phase, which is filling it in all around here with the Sculptamold, around the rocks with the Sculptamold. And when that's done, I'll come back and you can see how it looks. I'm going to show you how I mix up the Sculptamold now. So what you need is a container that's going to mix it in. I use a spoon. I also use a spoon to dish my paint. So this paint is just a basic brown that I have. I'm just going to put in there just because it does save a little bit of time if you color the Sculptamold first. Now the thing to do is I usually start with a 2-to-1 Sculptamold 2, water 1. I always put the water in first. You put the first Sculptamold in. And you'll see that it soaks that water. You see how it's sinking in that water? Then you put the second Sculptamold in. Now I stir with the spoon. At first, when you start to stir, it looks like nothing's happening. But then you see that Sculptamold starts to sink down. You see that? Now what you want is about little runny porridge consistency with this. Now, this is drying up pretty good, so I'm going to add a bit more water. I'm going to add another half. Get this stirred in. Get it right down to the bottom. Just keep stirring, keep stirring. Now remember, don't make up a big batch of this stuff. It sets. You got about 10 minutes or so, and then it's going to start to set up. And then if you start to touch it, it really goes dumb, stupid, crazy. It sticks and peels off. So you only got about 10 minutes. So I only make up about a half of one of these cups at a time. Just get it stirred up nice. Then I'm going to put in 2 spoonfuls of brown paint, just like this. And you're going to mix again. And just keep mixing, mixing, mixing. And you'll see there will be little gray spots where that paint hasn't sort of got into the Sculptamold, but that's okay because this is not going to be your final paint job. This is just to give the Sculptamold a base. I've used brown because around the areas that I'm going to do are mostly going to be dirt. Now if you were going to do rock and stuff, you might want to have gray or some other color. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but this is sort of the consistency you want, like just like porridge. And then you're gonna, then we'll go over and we'll put it on the Ravine. Okay, so I've got some of the stuff on here now. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this. I'm just going to use a spoon, see? Just take a spoon, put it in there. I'm hoping you can see that. Just flatten that out. I'm just using this right now to fill in those cracks. I don't think you can see this part just because there's stuff in the way. Now, I don't want to get it into the riverbed too much. Okay, now we're going to just continue on here. Now, here, this is where you get to be an artist. You can do this any way you want. Because it can be flat, it can be hilly. Now here, sometimes this won't stick right away, but I'm just going to try and get it on there. Well, that's doing really good. That was about the perfect consistency. Some balls just scrape it up. Beauty of this stuff. You can sculpt them old, man. You can sculpt stuff. Some of this I've got to keep clean because that's where the bridge actually sits. All this styrofoam is going to be painted anyway again. But I just want to make sure all the wood's covered. And this sticks pretty good to the wood. Of course, this wood, interestingly enough, has little grooves in it because it's decking wood that I used. Just not because I thought about that. It's just one of those things that worked out. Now, every once in a while, you're going to have to get back and take a look from different angles. And sometimes it looks great from one angle, and then you see a bunch of problems from another. As you can see, very personal process, because whatever you like, that's what you do. Okay, just gonna fill in a little bit in here. That I saw from a different angle. Now, I don't even know if you're going to be, once the bridge is in, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I'm kind of weird. I'll know it's there. And this is where I'm coming along. I'm just following that fascia, see? So I'm just bringing this up. so that it follows that fascia. Okay. Now we're going to get down onto this rock here. I'm not using a lot here. I'm just filling in a little crack that you could see where it joined. There's one back here I'm going to do too. I don't think you can see it, but again, I'm just filling in the crack. I'll give you a bird's eye once this is all done. Again, I don't know if you can see this. Just filling in some cracks. Now, I've decided I'm going to fill these cracks in. Well, I'm going to fill this one in. I think I'm going to leave that one. I think that one looks pretty good. Now, there's a bit of a edge on this one. I'll just fill that in. Well, thanks for staying with me here. This is a bit tedious, but I think it's good for you to see how things happen. What can go wrong. The beauty of this is if it goes wrong, you just go over it. So this is quite satisfying. It's quite fun. Here, I just want to touch up. And the beauty of these little plastic spoons is it doesn't stick to it very well, so you can just smooth it out as you go. If you start using your fingers, which I did in the beginning, it starts to stick and carry on. So I just use these, and you get pretty good at it. Now I know why the great sculptors use spatulas, because you couldn't really use your fingers with this stuff. Didn't work very well. And some of this, these striations in the rock I want to leave, so I'm not going to take the sculptor mold all the way up. See these here I want to leave. I think those look pretty cool. Just a couple more. And I'm going to take another look from a different angle. Make sure we got all the cracks filled in. I'm just going to continue along this fashion now, just to the end. Now, just going to place the bridge in, make sure we haven't locked any of the essential you can see that we got a little bit too close here. Just move that out of the way. I'm just setting that in nice and hard so I can see where the problem is. Try that again. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now we just let that set up and we'll do that. Okay, so I've just been using a technique called dry brushing. And I know it's probably a new technique. I think I'm the only one that's ever invented this. Just kidding. You take a little bit of paint and then you just get the brush nice and dry. And then you can just give a nice, let me get this on the camera here. And then you can just give a nice, black is what I'm using now, black tint to stuff. And what I did to get this effect, and you can see I'll zoom in here a little bit for you. So you can see the effect on those sort of rocks coming out, is I've done a little bit of effect with different dry brushing browns, dry brushing grays, and then dry brushed a little bit of this color. Which is called, I don't know if I can see it on this now. Anyway, it's just called red. So I put the red in, and you can see that that's given this little bit of color in here. I don't know if you can actually see that in this video, so I'm going to just try to zoom in a little more. See if you can see. That's it as far as it'll go. Let's try to move it in a bit. So you can see a little bit of red in there. And it makes it look like it's got a little bit of different colors in there. And you might even want to put a little yellow in. I'm just thinking about some yellow, but I actually I'm liking this now, so I'm going to leave it because, as my wife always tells me, stop, leave it. It's perfect, because I keep fiddling until I wreck it. So I'm just going to back out a bit so you can get a general idea. And there's the river. Now the river has dry brushed also, so I've dry brushed some black on there, because when we put the water in there, the acrylic, it's going to make that look like it has shallow areas and deep areas, so it'll look not sort of one-dimensional. Okay, so it's starting to come together. Try to give you a bit of a bird's eye view here. So it's starting to look like we've got a ravine there. And now we got to put a little ground cover on, some, I don't know, I'm thinking I might try some trees up in here. And then a few bushes and weeds, things down in here. Put a couple kids fishing down there. And then we'll do the river, the acrylic. That should be exciting. Okay, so that's where we're at. And let me know how you think it's going. Okay, so we're gonna get ready for the big pour on the creek in the ravine, and so that means we got to get the water ready. And to do that, we're using deep pour. This is Woodland Scenics Deep Pour Clear, but we are going to put a bit of tint in it as we get the pour ready. We get the materials ready, which they call the clear water pour. So this is the things you're going to need. So and all the stuff comes in that case, by the way. So you need this instruction book. You're going to need 2 glasses or 2 plastic cups, and I've already put the strips on, which these are supplied in the package also. You're going to need some gloves, which they also supply, and plastic bag, and I'll show you what that's for in a second, and the 2 stirring sticks, and then the all-important ingredients, the activator, and the deep pour clear actual water or actual chemical. Okay, now I have decided that based on the depth of the creek and the length that the creek is, I'm going to do the first pour, and I'm going to produce 240 240 mils of the material. So that means I go to my, well, let me take one step back first. What I've got here is a container with hot water in it. Now it's not boiling water, okay, it's just hot. So I can put my hand in it and it's not burning me, but it's warm, it's hot, okay? And the reason we're gonna do that is because these chemicals that we're going to use to make the water work best when they're hot. Not necessarily hot, but warm. So we put them in this plastic bag, and then we're going to squeeze as much of the air out as we can. Okay. And we're going to take and put these in the hot water. And we're just going to leave them in there just while I talk, probably about 10 minutes or so. Okay, there we go. So we'll just let those heat up. And then I'll show you this chart in this book. So you see here, this is on page 10. This little chart here shows you that if I want 240 mils or 270 mils or 300 mils, shows me the mix that I have to have of the water base and the activator, which I'm going to pour into these two measuring cups. Okay, and then we'll pour them both together and mix them up. So this is saying if I'm going to make 240, which is about there, then I need 160 of the water base and 80 of the activator. Okay, so that tells us what we need once this heats up. And they say to let this sit for about 10 minutes or so. So what I'm going to do is show you the rest of the stuff that we're going to use here. So to tint this, I'm going to try this. This is the Army Painter Wash Strong Tone. Okay, and I'm just going to put a couple drips of this in and we'll see what happens. And I've never used this combination before, but kind of like the color of this. So we are going to give that a go. Okay, and I'll be back when we're ready to start the pour. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes, so I think we're ready to take these out of the bag. I'll just do that. And we'll just get this out of the way. So it's not taking up room. Okay, so then the next thing is that we want to tip this up and down. And they say do not stir it or shake it. Just agitate up and down just to make sure that that heat gets distributed completely through these. And I've changed my mind a little bit. I think I'm going to go with 270. So that means 180 of this, which we're going to put on my gloves. They say to wear gloves all the time, so I am going to listen to them. So I'll put my gloves on. And these are quality equipment. Okay, so in this here, we bring all this up so everybody can see. And so this basically the instructions are in different languages, so you have to find the one that works for you. That's this one. And of course, once you have the gloves on, it's hard to turn the pages. However, I'm just looking to see how long I am supposed to stir this. Sorry, but this is impossible to do with these gloves on. Okay, so you're going to stir for 5 minutes. And then once we have stirred it, we have 20 minutes to pour it. I'm going back to my chart now, and we're going to get this started. So 5 minutes of stirring. So here we go, open it up. And we need 180 of this. They do say to stop a little bit short because it will move up, and you can see, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's at right at 180. And immediately put the top back on so we don't knock that over. And then for the activator, we need 90. Forward to 90. Now we're just going to mix these two together. I'm just letting that really drip all in there. Okay, and you can see right away that has come up over 270. Now they say to mix this, and exactly what they said would happen is happening, and it's starting to go cloudy. Okay, I'll hold this up. It's starting to go a bit cloudy. Now we want to keep mixing until all of that gets mixed together and that cloudiness goes consistent through the whole thing. They also mentioned that you want to scrape the sides, make sure none of that stuff is sticking to the sides and not getting activated. And then once that cloudiness starts to clear, which is starting to do now, I'm going to put in our a little bit of our wash. And I'm just going to do very, very little bit, one drip at a time. We'll start with 2 drips. That's made that a little bit darker, but what I'm looking for is just a little bit of a green. I'm going to go 2 more drops. There we go. I think that is just about the right color. Very nice. I don't want it like really green water. I want it kind of like a freshwater stream, but it will have a little bit of color to it, so that's good. You can see the color of that now. Just a little bit of like murky, grotty water. But that is ready to pour. So I'm going to stop the camera now, and we will come back on when we're ready to pour this into the stream. Stay with us. Okay, so we're back at the ravine now, and I just wanted to go over a few things. First, you'll notice I changed my gloves because those other ones were just too crazy, man. Couldn't deal with it. So now I'm just gonna bring this in. You see what I've done. So I put a little bit of vegetation in the river, and that vegetation is just some moss type stuff from Woodland Scenics, and then I put a few sticks in there, which are actually logs. Okay, just to give it some interest. Okay, good. All right, so now I'm just going to try and get this close as I can. Now we're going to start the pour right in this area here. So they say to start in the deepest section. So right before you pour it, you just want to mix it a little bit. I'm going to try and do this so that I don't get my hands in the way, but I'll give it a go here. I don't know if you can see this very well, but what's happening is it's actually flowing like a real river. It's pretty cool. I'm just gonna give it a little time. I'm trying to get some right up in here. Wow, this is really cool. It's actually flowing like a river. So now I'm really glad that I put that vegetation and those logs in there. It makes it look a lot more realistic. Now, maybe I should have added a little bit more tint. But I'm generally happy with the way that looks. I'm just gonna bit more up there so that we can get that whole area done. And I'm also thinking I might have made too much. I think better to have too much than not enough. So definitely next time I will put a bit more tint in. I did get a little bit over here, which I'm gonna get a Q-tip to take off. Because that just used to not have that there. There we go. All right. Okay, so I think we can go just a little bit more in there. And then that will probably do it. And you also have to remember what we did to prepare this was we painted that base, we painted the bottom, and we made sure that where it comes to the edge, those were painted up too, so that the stuff doesn't leak out. And so far I haven't seen any leaking happening. Well, that's good. And since I do have some of this, I'm gonna just continue to pour a little bit more in. And potentially see if we can get this to fill up a little more. One of the logs is floating down the creek, which is kind of cool, because when that dries, it'll be sort of stuck there floating. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So we are going to stop there, and we'll let that dry. It's supposed to take about 4 hours to cure. Well, sorry, 24 hours to cure, but 4 hours until you can do another pour on it if you want. And so basically they're saying if you want to put more tint in or whatever, you could do it in the next pour in about 4 hours. The main thing right now is not to touch it. And when we come back, we may have to blow on it a bit just to, sorry, there's a bit of spider web there from the hot glue gun that I used to put that stuff down. Okay, there it looks pretty darn good. So we'll leave it, and I'll be back when it's cured. Just a little update on the Ravine here. I've put a little bit of more work into this. Okay, so I put some vegetation down there. Put some people in. So we got this guy here sitting on the log having a fish. Got some people there waving. People up there climbing the rocks. Another guy over here having a little bit of a break. So I think we're just about done this now. But my son came in and said, "Aren't you going to put some waves in the river to make it look like it's moving?" So now I'm going, oh, okay, but I'm just gonna put this bridge in here. You can never satisfy the critics all the time. There's that bridge setting in there. So here's what we got. I'm just gonna try to zoom in there. Side. Just looking down from this side. I think it's a pretty good scene. So we'll now move to working on this road. Getting this road through here and on up there. And this is of course going to be the ethanol plant. Okay, I think that will we'll get back when I have this road in place. And I think I want to put a little fence along here, like a, I don't know, a metal brass fence or a wrought iron fence or something along here. Okay.